A new report about a no-deal Brexit, once again exposing project fear, establishment smears and lies. Going to bring you all the very latest in this report, guys. And of course, I doubt you've seen much about this no-deal report elsewhere. So please support the channel. Please support Real News here on the Westminster channel by hitting the subscribe button and the bell. And of course, you can support my work by hitting the join button to become a supporter of the channel. Now, this report, and do let me know in the comments if you've heard anything about this whatsoever. I'm somehow doubtful that you may have. Sets out how the UK should not be afraid of shifting to trading with the EU on WTO terms, and says that the costs of doing so have been greatly overestimated while the benefits are often overlooked. Entitled, "The Economic Impact of No Deal, a More Balanced Assessment," this has been put out by Briefings for Britain. The report is authored by Dr. Graham Gudgin. Hope I've got the pronunciation right there. Briefings for Britain's co-editor and a Cambridge University economist. The independent economist Julian Jessup, formerly chief economist at the Institute of Economic Affairs, and Harry Weston, a senior private sector economic forecaster who writes under a pen name for professional reasons. Now, before we dive into this, of course, where we stand with the negotiations, well, Boris Johnson set out the 15th of October deadline. If we don't have a deal wrapped up by then, we were going to walk away, we were going to assume no deal, we were going to say there wasn't enough time left. Instead, it seems the negotiations are rumbling on through November, possibly even into December. Will Boris Johnson and the government have the bottle to walk away with no deal? Let me know what you think in the comments. But regardless, we've heard the usual flurry of project fear, scare tactics on this outcome from those who've been utterly opposed and fought against a clean break from the EU for many years now. This report bringing some much needed balance, I think, and sanity to proceedings, hence why I'm reporting on it here on the Westminster channel. And Briefings for Britain say, with a deadline for a Brexit deal looming, they're publishing this new report explaining how the new economic modelling by the Treasury and others has seriously exaggerated, they say, the costs of no deal. So here they say the UK should not be afraid of shifting to trading with the EU on WTO terms if the alternative is a bad deal. And I just want to refresh your memories on how bonkers, utterly bonkers, establishment forecasts can be, because it's actually still up on the government website. You'll remember back in 2016 before the EU referendum. And here it is, on the government's own website still. Britain to enter recession with 500,000 UK jobs lost if it left the EU. New Treasury analysis shows. New Treasury analysis shows a vote to leave. And this is critical, isn't it? Because for so long, we've heard people trying to walk back. People try and claim, oh no, this analysis was on the basis of leaving and how we left. No. New Treasury analysis shows a vote to leave the EU would tip Britain's economy into a year-long recession. Britain's economy would be tipped into a year-long recession with at least 500,000 job loss and GDP around 3.6% lower following a vote to leave the EU. New Treasury analysis launched by the Prime Minister and Chancellor shows. And this was Treasury analysis of the impact of the nation's economy over the immediate period of 2 years following a vote to leave. A vote to leave. Going on, the analysis shows that such a decision would cause an immediate and profound economic shock across the country, creating instability and uncertainty. And I could go on, but look, that was some of the deeply irresponsible scaremongering that was going around from the establishment years ago. When this Briefings for Britain report looks at how the possible forecasting is wrong, let's not forget how very, very wrong it has been in the past. Briefings for Britain saying, our economists have repeatedly explained why the economic modelling produced by HM Treasury and others on no-deal Brexit scenarios, i.e. a switch with the EU on WTO terms, is seriously flawed. Unfortunately, we still hear, they say, the same old figures cited time and time again by the media and others, with no recognition of the major flaws we have repeatedly, drawn attention to. That is why they say we are publishing the following short, accessible report entitled The Economic Impact of No Deal, a More Balanced Assessment. The report provides a corrective to some of the more extreme assumptions previously used to model the impact of a no-deal Brexit. It outlines They go on to say the report analyses the assessments of no-deal scenarios previously conducted by the Treasury and other organisations such as the IMF. It finds that their assessments of such scenarios where the UK does not conclude a trade deal with the EU and trades with the bloc on WTO terms are based on extreme assumptions as to render them implausible. Similarly, claims that a no-deal Brexit would hit the UK 3 times as hard as coronavirus are found to be both inaccurate and misleading. What a surprise. Experts of every stripe need to be humbler, they say, and more realistic if they want to be taken seriously. And they say that predictions of imminent economic disaster, as I've just laid out there what was getting said, if the UK voted to leave the EU, proved to be hopelessly wrong. And they say that the more pessimistic modelling of the impact of no deal is similarly flawed, relying on implausible assumptions to come up with numbers that fail to the basic test of common sense. We hope that the report will set the agenda for a more balanced, evidence-based approach towards modelling the economic impact of Brexit. And they're very clear that the UK should not be afraid of shifting to trading with the EU on WTO terms, saying that the costs of doing so have been greatly overestimated while the benefits are often overlooked. They say that most modelling of the economic impact of no deal is far too pessimistic in terms of both the short-term and long-term economic impact. They say the difference between an FTA, free trade agreement-based Brexit, or no deal is relatively small. And they say that studies suggesting that a switch to trading with the EU on WTO terms would result in a huge long-term hit to GDP are fundamentally flawed. And they set out 5 main reasons for that. 1, they exaggerate the costs of Brexit. Predictions of a collapse of UK-EU trade are based on implausible assumptions on both the costs of non-tariff barriers and the sensitivity of trade to an increase in these costs. They say this is compounded by an implausible assumptions about the knock-on effects on productivity and the impact on migration. Point 2, they underestimate the benefits of Brexit, including the gains of lowering trade barriers with the rest of the world and better regulation at home. 3, the costs in point are further exaggerated by comparing WTO terms with a rosy view of what would have happened in the future if the UK had remained a full member of the EU. Such counterfactuals assume there are significant reductions in intra-EU barriers to trade will take place in the future and count the loss of these hypothetical future gains as a cost of Brexit. 4, the baseline as described is not only fictitious, it is no longer relevant. The UK remaining in the EU is no longer an option. The only relevant baseline against which no deal should now be considered is a UK-EU FTA. And 5th and final point is that the extrapolation of the cost is unrealistic. Most studies simply extrapolate the results over a period as long as 15 years, when almost anything could happen. This ignores, for example, the likelihood that technological progress will reduce the cost of non-tariff barriers over time, or the possibility of concluding a new FTA with the EU within a few years, even if the transition period ends without one. So that's a new report, guys, by Briefings for Britain, trying to bring some form of balance to the debate around no deal. As ever, I don't expect mainstream media to give this much of a showing at all. And as for what the government do ultimately, well, we know, and Lord Frost has said consistently, that the EU's demands on fisheries and the level playing field remain, and they represent significant gaps between the UK and the EU in these negotiations. Will the government cave in? Will they walk away and secure a clean break from the EU? Let me know in the comments, guys. But I thought this was a report worth bringing you. Let me know what you think about this. And of course, as ever, please help me with a thumbs up for this video. Really appreciate that. And of course, you can support my work, support Real News, by hitting that join button to become a supporter. And finally, guys, as ever, thank you so much for watching.